Hey everyone, this is Matt, and welcome back to the Wormhole Manifest podcast. This is a special introduction to this episode because, unfortunately, something really weird happened to my final product, and I wanted to give you all a heads up. Apparently, when I started recording this episode, and also, unfortunately, I didn't catch it until after recording the next episode as well, that the software I have been using was only picking up my new webcam's microphone for my audio tracks. So not the microphone I normally use that like you're listening to now with this quality. If anybody knows anything about webcam mics and the way I have my studio set up, webcam mic is not at all the quality that I prefer. So anyway, as you probably know by now, if you can hear the quality of this audio that you're hearing right now, and you also know that I am very OCD and have my audio sounds of this show how I like it normally. And when you listen to this upcoming discussion, you will quickly realize the difference between how I normally sound and how I like it to sound. And how the program picked it up, completely different, a different microphone, and it just sounds god-awful in my opinion. But that's not to discourage you from listening to the episode. I was very excited about these last two recordings, these last two episodes, due to the nature of the content and the special guests that I have on the show. I was really feeling awesome after each recording. I wasn't able to hear what you hear from this recording because I heard myself what I thought was recording through my regular microphone, but apparently it was picking up something else. And my webcam is like further away. So anyway, like the nature, yeah, I was really feeling awesome about each recording. The stuff that we talked about with the guests, was just great. I was feeling really great about it, and then I was really disappointed when I heard that audio quality after I'd started to go back and do the editing, is when I noticed that it wasn't recording right. So I wanted to I just felt really good. I was like, wow, these are some great episodes. This is good to add to the Manifest repertoire, so only to find out that the audio on my tracks was just completely disgusting. I've done my best to add filters and like EQ effects to clear it up, but it just isn't to the standard I prefer. But again, not to discourage you from listening, because each of my guest tracks on this upcoming episode and the one to follow it are great and clear, and the content was top-notch podcast gold in my humble opinion. So please bear with me in this time of existential crisis for my own personal OCD, and please give it a chance for the sake of my guests and the information that they had to discuss and pass on during the recording. I have learned a very, very valuable lesson during this and have checked all of my settings, and I know how to prevent this from happening again in the future. But thankfully, I won't be hooking up a new webcam. I got a new webcam and I hooked it up, not thinking I needed to go in and it would change the default settings and everything once it did the plug and play install of the drivers and everything to install it. And I just didn't double check that. And the software I used was just picking that up. And even though I thought I double checked it before I started recording, because I like to look at that stuff and make sure, it looked right, but it apparently wasn't. Like it said USB audio, and I thought that's normally what I use because my mixer runs through a USB audio device. So it looked the same, but it just wasn't. Anyway, I thank you for your patience and would greatly appreciate that you give my guests and I the benefit of the doubt and give these next 2 episodes, this one that you're going to listen to, and then the one that I release maybe in a week from now. I got to do a lot of work with editing, so hopefully I can get these out pretty quick. And then I can continue to move forward towards this podcast greatness while we venture into the wormhole. Now, here is the first of the messed up audio episodes out of 2. The next one will be released soon. And I just thank you for bearing with me. This one is with the first special guest, and I did not realize the audio was messed up on my track, but their audio is fine. So it's all about the guest on my show. So I want you to focus on what they say, and hopefully I don't ramble on too much like I'm doing now. Anyway, okay, so here is the first episode of the, this is season 2, episode 6, and then now you'll hear my crappy audio. So thanks.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Wormhole Manifest podcast, where I, Wormhole Matt, as you know, interview and converse with different special guests or guests every episode about a wide array of topics. Before I begin this episode, there is something I've been meaning to say for the last couple episodes, and I've somehow managed to slip by. I've had it in my notes, but I figure out I'm going to do it this time. I want to give a special shout out to all the Ukrainian people right now who have lost everything and have had to flee their homes and are in the middle of an invasion by Russia. It's a really sad situation, but I hope the conflict ends soon. It really sucks over there. So I want to let those people know and let everybody else know that my heart goes out to them. And it's something that I just been wanting to say and get out there, that I really do feel for the people over there dealing with all this madness. Okay, so yeah, got that. Moving on. This episode, I want to welcome back our friend Erica at Ellen Barstar on Twitter, who was on our very first episode. I realized after recording, as I have done almost every time I've recorded, that I missed so much information that we could have gone deeper into. And as with every guest I've had on, I always think of stuff afterwards, and I'm like, why didn't I bring this up? Or why didn't we talk about this? Or whatever. But so we got her back, and we're going to go on this journey through the wormhole and catch up with the things. As you may remember, Erica was hit hard with COVID at the very beginning of this pandemic, almost 2 years ago, and had a series of different issues pop up. And so we're just going to catch up. So Erica, how's it going? Welcome back.
Thank you, Matt. Good to see you again. Thanks for inviting me back. Things are good.
Yeah.
Things are a little different from last time when we last spoke. I think at that time, I shared a lot of my experience with trying to just recover from the post-viral syndrome that I got after having caught COVID in 2020. And at that time, you and I were talking about alternative ways of treating like depression and the mental health aspect. And I think at that time, my interest was genuinely there, but I had a lot of medications I was taking. It would have been difficult to pursue anything different. So my situation with that has changed, and my health has changed a little bit, but what do you want to know?
Well, and that's good. So you're feeling a
Yeah.
lot better now. Like, I mean, as far as
Yeah.
those, yeah. Because I remember I did listen again to that episode today to kind of catch up and refresh my memory. You had like nerve
Hmm.
pain and like nerve shocks and
Yeah.
skin and stuff, and there were sleeping
Hmm.
issues, side effects to medications, brain fog. Um, and we didn't really get into a lot of we talked a lot about those symptoms and things like that, but the mental health aspect about we briefly mentioned
Hmm.
depression and stuff like that, um, but we talked about like having to start over because like you had basically like went through
Hmm.
like all your savings
Yeah.
and all that and that I identified with that and I was like, oh, that just really sucks, like um, but the mental health aspect, like that's really what this show is, what I'm kind of gearing it towards is how people deal with different things. And I can understand that COVID is a very different thing, and when it's a new thing, of course there's been other pandemics in the past, and I'm sure people back then were dealing
Yeah.
with things. But so let's dig into what has changed
Mhm.
for you. So you were on a lot of those medications and they had side effects and things like that. Have you gotten off of a lot of
Yeah.
those or on different stuff
Yeah.
or what?
So, a lot of the symptoms that I had when we talked last, they really haven't changed. Um, but so the nerve pain is still a chronic condition that I have, and the medication that I need to take for
Mm,
that isn't something I haven't even really been able to reduce it at this point, but at least it's manageable. And my sleep is so much better. I am taking medication for sleep, but it seems to be the right kind, and the side effects are minimal. And as long as I'm, kind of on a schedule and I get enough rest, that's really impacted my daily life. But the antidepressants that I had taken, after COVID, because my mental health was suffering, um, those were the ones
yeah.
that I didn't even realize just how impactful they were until I did go off of them. And for anyone who's had to go off of any kind of anti-anxiety, antipsychotic, antidepressant, you name it, anything in that realm, it's I get it now. I understand just how bad that is. I don't ever want to go through that again. That was very, very awful, and it was not a quick and swift, situation. It lasted for a few months. Yeah, so that was
Wow.
last August
Was it just like,
that I started going off of those medications. And um, I think the kind of one of the bigger challenges was not just the withdrawals, but the,
mm,
um, you've been masking feelings for months and really numb.
yeah,
And so just really like kind of basic emotional situations feel pretty catastrophic because they're just like really fresh. So you just go from zero to 100 without much time in between. So I feel like I feel this like that you are really understanding me by the look on your face. Does this hit home?
yeah, definitely. I mean, everything from withdrawals to even went what I most recently went through. I mean, obviously, I didn't have COVID, or I haven't had it yet. I'm hoping I don't get it. I am vaccinated. I need to go get my booster yet. I haven't gotten that, but the the even tapering off or
Uh-huh.
weaning off of medications is difficult in itself. Um, but the times I've been through massive like withdrawals from just going like
Hmm.
cold turkey on medications that alter your brain
Yeah.
chemistry. So like you just don't want to do that. It is a
Yeah.
nightmare, like, and so yeah, I definitely feel for you there. Even if you were going about it the right way and reducing them, it can still be very difficult.
Yeah.
And I feel for anyone who, man, has to deal with the sudden withdrawals or even other kinds of side effects that some of these medications have. It's just
it's hard to describe unless you've gone through it. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that was interesting. I kept a journal for a few months because I really just needed to do anything, just to try and manage how I felt really out of control of my emotions. And so I kind of just throw it all into my journal. And then, I've read it since then, and it's just terrifying. I'm like, oh my God, I was just crazed, and it would be like where I would have like these emotional outbursts or very rageful outbursts over nothing. And then I get it all out, write it all down, and, just talk myself off of the ledge. I kept telling myself I needed to make sure my house was in order before I made any big choices. It was like for whatever reason, where people would judge me for my messy closet or drawers or whatever, like, well, got to take. So I did have a lot of the energy I had put into, like, when I'd have those moments, I'd just go and clean something.
Yeah. What were you ever like manic kind of like cleaning and stuff? Because I used to do that quite a bit. Like I would just like pace around and find things to do when I didn't know what I should be doing. And then there was a long period where I didn't do anything. Like I was so out of it that I like just laid on the couch watching Weather Channel for like 8 hours a day. And I'm like, now I'm getting back to like almost that manic stage where, because now that I'm not on any of those medications, I'm only on one medication, but it's a very low dose. And actually come to find out that they've had done some studies, brief studies, I think, but it's shown that this particular medication that I'm on is actually good for treating symptoms of COVID for some reason. Like, I don't know how they found that out, but apparently people that were on this medication that got COVID, like, didn't get it as bad or something. I don't know. But, yeah, so like, and my doctor told me that. They're like, oh, there's actually been a few studies that show that this medication that you're on, but I feel way more balanced in life. And I don't know if I should get off of this one last medication that kind of like is the last bit of, the journey that I was going through by trying to get off of everything 2 years ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic. But it wasn't COVID related. It was just my own mental health issues that I had. But I'm like, do I want to get off this one last I mean, I feel pretty good, do I want to just chance it?
If you're doing well, I guess, the goal is to be doing well, should be,
right. And be content with life. I mean, there's no such thing as like a happy pill, really. There's nothing. But if you're content with life and you're on a medication or a couple medications or whatever, and it's helping you get by, then there's nothing wrong with that. There's something I've learned is that every substance out there, like even like possibly crack cocaine or whatever, there may be some kind of use for it out in the world, but we don't know unless we study it. So but there's these substances exist for a reason. It's maybe by chance or whatever, but the things that I don't know. But a lot of the studies that have been done with psychedelics in the past couple of years, or past maybe 5-6 years, have shown a lot of benefits for people with mental health issues.
Yeah, there was actually
we can get into that later.
I can't remember when it came out, or if it was out before our last session, but there's a study at the University of Washington, and it's using psychedelics and basically acid, mushrooms, you name it. But they have found phenomenal results, and just specifically with like PTSD and depression has been just they can barely contain themselves right now. But they fully admit, we really don't know how this works. We know it works. We know there are no bad things that have happened when you do it in a way that is focused on getting better and not just recreational use, but with someone who knows how to walk you through that journey, or help you repath your brain, really. And so those are exciting things. And
rewired.
I don't, if I can find the, there was an entire interview with one of the professors at the university. So if I can find that, I'll send it to you for a link for your podcast. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like there's Dr. Robin Carhart Harris, and is that right? Carhart is another guy. Dr. Robin somebody. He's like a neuroscientist, but he's in the UK, and they've done a lot of studies and mapping the brain, basically, like while like doing like EKGs or brain scans of people while on hallucinogens or psychedelics, and it just, the stuff is like mind-blowing, that how it repairs, or it like makes all these connections between like neurotransmitters and the neural pathways in your brain, and it's like they show you the difference between a normal brain and like the connections between different points, and then they show
like one of our brains
picture, a little yeah, they show the brain of someone on psychedelics, and there's like a million more different connections, like all these different regions of the brain that like don't normally communicate, and it's amazing. And like I think I've told you, is like when I first started getting back into the research on this and the psychedelics and things, and started trying microdosing, it was almost like, and it's not just microdosing, but also using mushrooms in themselves, like different kinds of, every kind of mushroom out there is a little different and have like different benefits behind them. But things like turkey tail and reishi and cordyceps and all these different kinds have a lot of benefits to a human body and mind and stuff. And when I started putting these mushrooms, there's like a powder you can buy, and they're not psychedelic, but like I add it to a smoothie, and I did that almost every day for several months. And it was just like my brain was just firing like an engine firing on all cylinders, like I felt like a person again, that I could actually walk through life and communicate with people. And,
that's amazing.
It was just amazing.
That's like, I'm so like, wonderful mushrooms, to hear though, that you found something that helped.
Yeah. And I look back and I'm like, oh man, I wasted so much time, and I should have, it's not like I should have known, but I remember being a young guy trying out, some psychedelics or different drugs back when I was young and dumb, and before I joined the military and all that. And I'm like, it sounds like a cool thing to do. Let me try that. And I was in an afterglow after I did acid the first time for months on end, maybe even years. And I didn't want to try any other kind of drugs or anything, because I just felt good. I felt like I was myself. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty good. But now looking back, hindsight is 2020. I'm like, I tripped acid and I felt good for years after that. So I could probably, attribute that mood or state of mind to that one psychedelic trip that I took. Like it's, I'm like, I did that when I was like 17 or 18 or maybe 19. I don't remember, but like it lasted for a long time. I was able to make it through Marine Corps basic training without an issue,
Yeah.
like I'm like, I did all these crazy things and wonderful things, but like, I can look back and say it's probably because I was like, I tripped
Yeah.
acid,
Yeah. I mean, now that we know a little more, then
yeah, and we can think back, we can attribute things to like those those cultures in like South America that are, those
mhm.
indigenous tribes and peoples that live in these communities that get through life and have been getting through life for thousands of years, because they do things
Mhm.
regularly, like ceremonies with psychedelics or with ayahuasca or mushrooms or whatever, and even the kids are doing
Mhm.
this stuff, and it's not a harmful thing. But it wasn't until America, the United States, decided to demonize these things in the 60s and 70s. It was, that's when we started losing out on the research
Right.
behind this stuff. But yeah, it's definitely helped. I feel like I've lost a lot of time, with like my
Oh,
kids and my family and
yeah.
stuff, from being depressed and suffering from anxiety, and not being able to talk and having rageful
Yeah.
outbursts and things like that. But the now, it's like I can just look back and be like, okay, that happened, move forward, just keep
Yeah.
moving on. So like, where are you at
Mhm.
now? Like, you said, there is some still, what kind of lingering, side effects do you think you have that may be with you for like the long term with COVID?
Well, so I think it's
Or
important to share kind of like what I think. So my health is the health issues that I still have. They're not from COVID. They're COVID triggered an autoimmune reaction of something that was
hmm,
probably living inside my body already and just triggered it, jump started it. And so the question was, well, I see the kitty cat.
yeah,
um, the question is like, would I have had it, anyway, or did COVID just kind of, make it happen sooner or in a different way? But when I first started having all these strange symptoms and everyone, was seeing these odd things happen to people who had long haul COVID, um, all the doctors that I went to, just they would, I go to a doctor and I get a referral to a neurologist, and then that doctor would refer me to a rheumatologist, and that rheumatologist would say, you don't really have enough of these symptoms, so maybe go back to neurologist. And it just kind of kept going,
hmm,
back and forth. And in hindsight now, of course, it's so much easier for me to have like a bigger picture and see that, like most autoimmune diseases, they just take a really long time to really track
hmm,
your symptoms, be seen regularly, have regular lab work, because you just don't walk in off the street and say, well, I'm having these symptoms. I haven't been able to sleep for 3 months, and my whole body hurts, or I keep getting this nerve pain, and I don't feel like myself. And you're coming off of having COVID. Well, they're going to be reluctant to give any diagnosis because it's just that was still like the great unknown. So I did
yeah,
change one of my doctors. I decided to see a new rheumatologist, and part of that was logistics, just easier for me to get to these appointments for location and time. But I also wanted to get a different set of eyes on all of my medical history and the medications I'm taking. And, I had kind of given up on trying to find any diagnosis. I just needed to learn to live with my symptoms. So that was really all I had been working on. But, recently I made the decision that I wanted to make another try. at maybe seeing a different doctor. And I'm glad I did, because again, it just kind of that time situation really is helping, I think, with this new doctor that I'm seeing, because now he has 18 months, 2 years of symptoms that are consistent. They're identifiable. And there's this history, right? So now this doctor has kind of the luxury of this bigger picture of like, okay, these things have been happening for this long. Now I think we might have a better idea. So that this was just very recent, and I haven't even done my due diligence of Googling all of all of what he said to, be my own doctor when I get home. But he did feel that I present pretty solid fibromyalgia symptoms, and that is separate from this other piece that I've there's been some blood work that shows up, and it's called an ANA test, and it's been indicating that I have an autoimmune disease called scleroderma. And scleroderma is unique, and it can be pretty benign, or it can be really serious depending on the level that you have it. But it's my understanding that it is, there's usually will happen in like joints and different parts, like your elbows and wrists, where there's little patches of skin that will thicken and become hard. And that's like your external, skin, but that can happen inside of you as well. So if it does like something like that to your organs, obviously there's going to be some issues. But I don't present with everything so the blood test is, pretty much like, okay, well, this is the one. If we're picking the one, this is the one she would have. But, they would never diagnose me with just that blood test. I would have to have, pass these other markers. And the way it was described to me is that it may never happen. I may never fully get all of those symptoms, or it may take a long time for me to have some of those symptoms, and they may go away. But the nerve pain he associated with the fibromyalgia, and that my system is possibly not processing certain sensations correctly. So I'm mistaking certain sensations for pain, and they're not. There's no pain. It's just it's misfiring in my brain. Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting, because there's I had a friend a long time ago that was in college with me that had fibromyalgia pretty bad, and so she told me quite a bit about what that was like, and it sounded horrible. I'm looking right now at the scleroderma.
It's
I don't know how you
is
say
it S
scleroderma is how it's pronounced on the site. Scleroderma. Is that what you were talking about? Scleroderma?
Yes.
Tightening of the skin. I remember in the last episode you were on, like we talked about, and you said that there was issues with the with like nerve pain, or like you felt like there was like those shocks or whatever, like
it felt like little
shocks and things on the skin.
So when I wasn't on any medication to manage the pain, it felt like I would, especially at night, I would get these really sharp jolts that felt like electric shocks, and they burned. And the only way to you'd feel it I would feel it acutely in wherever it was, and there were no rules. It could be anywhere, but I would feel the little shock, and the only way to kind of make that sensation and that burning feeling go away was to like kind of rub that area and kind of, or smack it to kind of trick it out of that sensation, give it something different.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like spiders, it feels like that tickly, crawly feeling. It's really awful. It's
I hate that
horrible.
feeling because like now that I have this long ass hair, I'm like every once in a while like I have my shirt off and like my hair will like touch like down my back or down one of my arms. I'm like like jump and I'm like freaking out. I'm like, oh, that's just my hair. Because I mean, where we live in the Midwest, like once it starts warming up around here, we do have. I mean, it's not a problem, but there are a lot of
Yeah.
spiders that come into the house. I've got little traps everywhere and spray some stuff every once in a while, but um, I don't mind spiders so much. I mean, but I'm very paranoid about the brown recluse spider because those are around here, and I've caught them like on like I would hang a shirt on my bedpost, and then like when I get up, I just automatically almost like shake out my clothes before I put a shirt on, things like that, just because I have found a spider in my
Oh
clothes
God.
before, and it's just like it's just a weird thing, and it's funny too because I just showed my kids a couple weeks ago the movie
Mm-hmm.
Arachnophobia for the first time, and I hadn't seen it in a long time, and then I'm like, oh, now I'm like, it's like fresh in the mind now, and now that it's getting warmer, like around here, I mean, it's the weather is ridiculous. It's like it snowed like 2 or 3 days ago, and now it's like 80 degrees out. I'm like, oh my god, this is ridiculous. I hate the Midwest, but
Yeah,
and I
it's
hate
been some
bugs.
unusual weather here too, but we don't, I mean, I know we don't really have too many poisonous spiders out here. Maybe Eastern Washington. I think that we've had brown recluse around here as well, but not, they don't take over or anything. It's kind of more, it would be unusual, I
Yeah,
think, but.
it's like it just always reminds me of the meme when like
Mhm.
I found a spider in my shower today and I proceeded to
Yeah.
burn the house down
Oh,
or
I can.
something. Or I carefully grabbed a piece of tissue and then
Yeah.
I burned the house
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. That sensation is
But
probably it's got to be in the top 10 of the least favorite things I've gone through. Um, yeah. So that, that stuff's under control. Trying to think of the other
that's
things
good. That's
that,
good to hear.
I mean, honestly, it's been a lot of just trying to get my energy levels back up. I'm doing a lot better with that. Being able to process my
Yeah,
thoughts and find my words and recall.
yeah, like
Yeah,
how's that brain fog and the sleeping and
yeah.
stuff? Is that
Well,
how is that?
I kind of
Is it
wonder. It's so hard to know because I was getting better before I stopped taking some of the medications that had a lot of side effects last August. And then I had to go through that kind of
yeah,
horrible time where that was working its way out of my system. And then, you know, it did get better probably October, November of this last fall. And it was nice because I could see progress, but then I'd hit a plateau and you just kind of go, is this it? Is this as good as it gets? Is this how I plan my life now? And then you get over another milestone, or you find yourself not needing to nap anymore during the day. And that's where I really felt like that the biggest progress was, is I could make it through my day without needing a nap. Sometimes I still have really awful days where it's hard for me to get up out of bed. My body hurts. I'm just exhausted, and that's just kind of what I've been dealing with for a while now. But those days are not as frequent. They're like the exception, and I haven't had to miss very much work. That's been another big thing, is being able to just be at work every day. But I'm not quite to the point where I have a lot of energy after work. And maybe everyone's like that, but
yeah?
I really, really feel depleted. You know, when the clock hits 5 p.m., sometimes I'm really watching that clock because I'm just exhausted. But
You're like, come
yeah,
on,
yeah, and I don't have a
come
lot of
on, end the
energy to
day.
go do much after work. And I used to have
Yeah.
pre-COVID. I mean, I think just socially there were a lot of things to do. I haven't added any of that back to my life, so I chill at night, and I haven't really been able to drink since COVID. So alcohol hasn't, it's just not something at home by myself, or even if my partner's home. I just don't drink with him, even with at dinner or anything. But if we go to dinner out or with a friend or something, I'll have like an occasional drink, but it just makes me feel awful. So that's when stoner me comes out, and that's what, you know, it's me time. It's my me time. Yeah.
Yeah. I've just recently started reintroducing, like, for a while, I couldn't, like, when I was on a bunch of medications and when I was kind of like going through a lot of stuff, I was smoking quite a bit. Um, and I don't know if that like contributed to anything, but I think at the time, it kind of helped balance me out because I was on like amphetamines and all kinds of different, antipsychotics and stuff. So I was like, felt like I don't know, like a manic zombie. Like I had no
Mhm.
emotion, but I was like constantly doing things because I was like wired, and I'm like, I gotta keep doing stuff. And so I would like smoke, and it would just like kind of balance me out. But once I got off those medications, um, I would, if I would try to smoke, then it would just make me like super paranoid and like feel like a lot of
Yeah.
anxiety. So I was like, let me just cut that out. And so I stopped doing that for like a year and a half. Like altogether, I just quit doing it, and then I started drinking a little more here and there to kind of work through some of the anxiety and stuff, and just kind of like as instead of using pain relievers, I would drink a little bit and just kind of get
Yeah.
relaxed and work through that. But once I got off all the meds and then I was doing the microdosing and everything, I wasn't um, really drinking. And then uh, I've started introducing it back in, and I drink here and there, and I drink while I'm recording a show, and maybe like once a week at
Hmm.
most. Like I'll sit there and have a few drinks, but it's not nearly as bad as when I was like full blown
Yeah.
alcoholic. Like I was drinking every night. Like either a bottle or a 12 pack or whatever.
Your
But
cat is
doing
like literally doing the Dewey Decimal System with your files behind you right now. I
yeah,
have
she's like
never
trying to
seen a cat so
sort things out.
busy in an office and like with a purpose.
She This is like that's the kitchen over there, and this is like the
Gotcha.
office part. But like she's when she hears me
Oh,
talking is when she starts like, oh, I need to
yeah,
do
she's
things.
busy, man.
I need to mess with stuff. And but uh but yeah, like, and then I didn't want to feel that anxiety from smoking weed, so I
Hmm.
kind of cut that out. But since they've legalized the like Delta 8 and Delta 9 and some of these other different cannabinoids that are in THC or parts of THC, I've started kind of dabbling in that a little bit. I found I can't really do it if I'm doing
Yeah.
other things. Like if I have things to do, I can't do that. But like at night, as kind of a little ritual, like I'll go to bed and then I puff on like a vape that I have of the Delta 8, um, and they have like a vape that's for all the different kinds of strains of cannabis
Hmm.
that are out there. And so I've got like one of each. I've got a hybrid and a sativa and an indica, and it just depends on how I feel that night. I'll take like one or two puffs on it, and it does change or alter my perceptions a little bit. But then I'll like lay in bed and then start reading. And if it gets to be too much, like I found the first, I'm kind of used to it now because I've been slowly building up my tolerance. Because you probably know that like when you have no tolerance
Mm-hmm.
to THC, that first, like if you took like if you smoked like one big bowl, like your mind would be blasted, and it like you'd just be like, holy shit, like I'm fucking stoned, like, and when that happens to me is when the huge anxiety and paranoia stuff comes out. So the first time I tried the Delta 8 thing was um, got a pretty good bit of anxiety. But what I did was I used some of the tools, some of the things I've learned over the past couple of years with trying different methods of meditation and mindfulness. And I was able to lay there and kind of work through that anxiety and trace where it was stemming from. And it was like a tension in the back of my neck that was sending my mind into this kind of spiral of looping thoughts and whatever. And I just told myself that it's okay. There's nothing to worry about. And then I started to force myself kind of to focus on positive things, like focused on positive thinking instead of going through the spiral of what used to happen was just spiral of negativity after, just and lots of negative self-talk and things like that, just like nobody likes me, I'm a fucking idiot, like I'm so stupid, I wasted my whole life, all kinds of crazy stuff that just would send me into a uh, bad downward spiral. And I just kind of countered that. I'm like, there's nothing to worry about. I just used a little bit of this cannabis, and it's making my brain uh, think in different ways
Mm-hmm.
than it's used to, and I don't have to be in constant control of everything and how I think and all this stuff. But I can tell myself that it's okay, and it's okay to not be okay. And I'm like, am I not okay? And then I'm like, actually, I am okay. I don't know why I'm feeling
Yeah.
like I'm not okay. I think it's just a thing that we've learned, or I've taught myself over time, is that if I feel a certain way, then it automatically means a
Yeah.
negative. It automatically means a
Mm-hmm.
bad thing. And there's no such thing as good or bad. It's all different shades of every kind of human emotion that we have. So my wife says it all the time. There's no good or bad. You always you can't describe things. It's either good or bad. And I'm like, okay. I mean, so I'm looking for other descriptor words, and they never come to me. But sometimes I'm like, okay, I just tell myself it's not bad, it's not good, it's something else. And
Yeah.
so I just explore that and
Yeah.
work through it. And that's what like I found is
Mm-hmm.
working. So now that I have a tolerance built up and it doesn't hit me as hard, I can lay there and be like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is cool. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can read for a while, and if I'm watching something like a TV show, if it gets to be too much, like if it's like
Right.
too
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming sometimes, because I'm like, if I get high, I'm like I can't focus, and that sends me into another thing. I'm
Yeah.
like I can't, so I'm like I don't like to not feel like I'm
Mm-hmm.
in control. So like if I can't control my thoughts, then I'm like I start
Yeah.
freaking out. So I'm like it's okay to just chill and not think. And if I'm watching something and I can't focus on it, then I'm like just
Mm-hmm.
turn it off. Just do something else. Just don't, Or if I just want to lay there and think about things and come up with cool ideas of things to do on a podcast, then I'm like I can write some stuff down, or brainstorm about something else. I don't have to force myself to sit there and focus on something if that's not what I'm in the mood
Right.
for, and and it's been working. It's been
It
pretty
takes up
good.
a lot of space, you know.
And I've
Mm-hmm.
read so much lately. For like 6 years, I didn't read one comic book or manga or book or novel or even stuff I like to read about like science and things like that, But
Yeah.
it's been going pretty good.
Well, it's definitely a journey, and I found it difficult to know at least with what I was going through, what my symptoms really were because of the medications. And um, I think they work for many people. I don't think that the ones I was taking, at least, were the right kind. And um, actually, I felt like the reasons I had taken them initially didn't exist anymore. So it was, I feel a lot better. I mean, I still from time to time have a hard time because of the memory gaps where I don't remember things. Or I feel really
Mm,
bad because you were mentioning time, lost time, just, you know, with yourself
yeah.
dealing with these things, and you can't be with other people. And um, especially when you're a parent, you just really the probably worst part, I think. And I find myself now really trying to make up for that, you know, and part of that is taking care of myself, though, um, so that I
Oh,
can
yeah,
be there
absolutely.
for my kids, that they're adults now, but I'm there for them, and I can be there for them, and I can make special days or weekends to spend time with them because I can actually get out of my house or get out of bed. And so everything I do during the week, it's pretty regimented in order for me to just be able to manage my job, care for myself and my home and my family. And then maybe on the weekends have a little bit of energy to do something and see my kids. But if I stop taking the medicines that I'm taking now, or stop taking them as well as I do now, like at different times, or I get off a sleep schedule, it it is pretty disruptive. And you know, I just avoid it. I feel bad because I decline a lot of different things to do. And but yeah, this is my next steps, is just getting back into life, really basic things. And um, unfortunately, I think we've all been through so much the last few years. Obviously the pandemic was so big, but then we start to see the signs of that lifting, and living with COVID in a different way. And, the world has gone insane, and we're watching, you know, Russia invade a peaceful country. And now we're in month 2 of this. And I worry about all of our mental health. I mean, I just,
Yeah,
we're all I feel like
I know.
we are all trying to live our day-to-day lives because we have to. But this elephant that sits in the room is just taking up all of the room. And it's heavy.
Yeah. There's like a there's a few people that I know that refer to the state of the world right now as the world is in a state of
Yeah.
psychosis, like a constant psychosis. And that kind of, I mean, I don't know how I feel about that. Like I think that, yeah, like throughout time and history, there's been a lot of crazy shit that's happened to us humans on this planet, and we've overcome a lot of things. Um, but to say that everyone, obviously we're more aware of mental health things nowadays than we ever were, and we can identify and be aware that everyone nowadays that lives in our society and like works a normal job or whatever, a 9 to 5, or and has a family and friends, and like we're all going through stuff, but to throw the last couple of years, like, a deadly virus and now a war, it's really, it's kind of history repeating itself,
Yeah.
I think, in a way, but like it's 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 a lot more present in everyone's day-to-day life because we see it so much more because of technology. Like, we are more aware than people were back in, like, during World War II, or during the Ebola virus,
Right.
or the Spanish flu, or the what's the other one with the or polio thing, all these different things that happened throughout our history. Like, those people back then were only aware of it as much as their community was, because of newspapers or whatever they would hear from their neighbors. But now we hear about what's going on the opposite side of the planet, minute by minute, up to date, minute by minute updates on everything that's going on worldwide. And I don't think our brains were meant to encapsulate all that massive amount of data all at once. And that is what's making that psychosis. Everyone, even if they're, we're just sitting at our house, or we're, playing video games or talking to friends online or whatever, like, everybody's freaking the fuck out because there's so much shit going on. And hundreds of years ago, there wasn't. There was still shit going on. You just weren't aware of it. It wasn't right in your face, like. So, like, nowadays we're like, holy fuck, there's a lot going on. I'm freaking out, and it's like, as well you should be. And if you're not, there is something wrong with you. If you are not freaking out by a war going on and a deadly virus sweeping the planet, then I don't know. Some kind of superhuman, like, it isn't affected by shit.
Yeah.
But it's crazy.
Pretty messed up. Really? I don't know. It's just so messed up. And the fact that we're watching it right now, and like you said, we get each morning I'll admit, that's what I look at in the morning. I want to see if anything happened that I want to know about and be aware of. And as much as Putin likes to threaten, if this country does this, then I'm going to do that. And, I don't think there's any boundaries for him.
Yeah. And we're threatening, like, sanctions and all this stuff. And it's like, it's a weird game that's going on. It's almost like a chess game, like any war is, where players make the moves, but this is it seems way more drawn out because we're watching it, like, every second, and it's very difficult not to, and it's just.
Yeah. And I mean, just
I don't know.
Alarming too, the number of people in the United States that don't really think this is a problem, to your point, or they think that Ukrainians should have just surrendered and none of this would have happened. It's just insanity.
Well, we all know, you and I know that there's a lot of people here in America that are, for lack of better terms, just not fucking with it. They're like, they don't get it. They don't understand that what's going on, and they choose to put their head in the sand and say, like, what they think is best for the rest of the people in the world.
Yeah.
It's
insane. And, just as a female, like, every day that I see a state challenge Roe v. Wade or make their own laws that are working towards taking away the reproductive rights of females and trans people, there's this building pressure. It just feels like, it's something that's going to implode at some point, because these are, like, really, like, very significant issues that I just never thought I would ever see happen. I don't understand why now, except for appealing to a base for political reasons, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's the key. It's that politic thing.
You know, I'm not worried about
manipulation and
my reproductive health, but I have daughters who are young women, and I care about all females making their own decisions and having privacy about what those decisions are, whether it's reproductive health or any female health. You know, it's just nobody's business. But we're watching it happen right now, and there has to be a reckoning, and I'm really scared about that because I know it has to happen. We have to figure out how to legalize this, but I think that they're going to take away Roe v. Wade first before that happens. And there's just a lot of stuff. I didn't mean to like go down this path. I must be coming down from my high, man. Like, why did I bring up abortion?
Hey, I think it's cool. I think we should dig into it. Let's go ahead and take a break real quick, so I can have that spot to edit and stuff. So let's take a break real quick. I'm gonna stop this. We'll be right back, folks. Hang in there, and we're gonna touch into some more stuff. Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the Wormhole Manifest podcast. Me and Erica were sitting here, and we were touching on a lot of good stuff on that first half. We were catching up with her battle with COVID over the last couple of years, and catching up and seeing how she's doing ever since last September when she was on the first episode. And so we talked a good deal about that. And we just left off, and we started talking about the Erica brought up reproductive rights, and I think that's an important subject, actually. And I think we should, first, I want to say that I'm glad that you're doing better. Now, I know it's still a struggle, and a lot of us are struggling with different things, but you have really had a fight. You've had this war going on within your life, and I'm glad to see that you're hanging in there, and things are progressing and getting better. So that makes me feel good that it's all coming around, and things are picking up. When you the first thing that I thought of when you mentioned the Roe versus Wade thing, and I don't really know what that means or a lot behind that. I kind of know from media and stuff, but when I start thinking of reproductive rights and the things I've seen in the media and about how people are, states like Texas or I think it's Florida recently or something that is banning abortion and all this stuff, or how but the thing that comes to my mind is Handmaid's Tale. And Rachel and I watched that, and there's not an episode that goes by that I see that doesn't like infuriate me, that and makes me like basically just like hate right-wing Republican like white men. Like it just makes me like so mad that the things that go on in that show and how it's possible to, like our society could devolve into something like that with the way that these, I don't know, like the Puritans and Christians and all this stuff. And I know it's not all Christians, but I was brought up in a very religious upbringing, and I abandoned it pretty quickly. And I'm not an atheist by any means. I don't even when I went in the military, I told people they made you choose what your religious beliefs were to put on your dog tags. When you join the military, you have to have whatever your religious preference is. And so I asked the guy next to me, and I'm like, I don't know what I am. And he's like, what, how were you brought up? And I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I was brought up like Christian, or, I went to a Lutheran grade school, and learned everything in the Bible backwards and forwards, and every Bible story. And my mom and dad were pretty big Christians. And every holiday we watched the Bible movies and Jesus this and that, and Easter and Christmas and every other holiday that had some kind of media that was associated with it. It was, that involved Jesus or the stories, the Bible stories and things. So I grew up like that. And nowadays, a lot of kids don't grow up like that. But watching The Handmaid's Tale, it makes me think about those things. And I'm like, holy shit, like that, it's just a fucked up show. And I love it. But I am so mad at white men after watching an episode.
Just a minute, Matt. Let her in. Or maybe not. I thought she was going to howl at the door all night. Well, just for reference, so I was born in 1974, and so I just grew up thinking that my right to choose whether or not I have a baby or not was my right. That it's a law. I actually didn't know very much about what gave me the right to have that choice until this movement in the last, I would say 7 years that we've seen kind of spreading like wildfire amongst certain states, where those rights are being challenged in ways that I don't think anyone ever thought would be possible. And so then I was like, well, how can that be? So Roe v. Wade isn't a law, it's just a decision in this U.S. Supreme Court. And that happened in 1973. So the year before I was born is when Roe v. Wade was recognized. And
and I do know now. I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, I do remember reading about it before.
But I don't think I'm alone in thinking that that a lot of people assumed it's a law. Now, the more I know over the last few years is that, I grew up in mainly northern states, Northwest, and I live in a state that has had, fairly easy access to abortions for women. But that is not the case in all of the states. And they've been able to make it difficult for, with laws, make it restrictive, but they've also made it difficult or just made it impossible with the number of physicians who can perform these things, or the number of clinics. So they're just like these reproductive clinic deserts where there's nothing out there. So women are having to travel to other states, and that's expensive. That's something that not everyone has the resources for. So those things aren't actually new. That's just something I didn't know about because I've been living in my bubble. And, I was born in 74. It all was good. I live in a northern state. It's been accessible. And then until the state started challenging these things, I was oblivious. So I don't know a lot about this, but I know enough to know just how bad this is and just how, I mean, this is terrifying. This should be terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think we're in that 70s show like together. Like I
right.
remember like I think of these things, and you're right about the bubble thing. Like if you were more, I'm not sure. I don't know. I've actually never been to the Pacific Northwest. The closest I came was I was in like
Mm-hmm.
Idaho, I think, once for
Mm-hmm.
work. Um, and
We'll claim
yeah, it
it.
was
We'll
very
claim
different. Like
Idaho.
me, okay, but being in this like Bible
Mm-hmm.
Belt area where I've grown up in the Midwest, you know, like yeah, there it's very just a lot of Puritan value kind of things that get taught, you know, like and I went to like I said, I went to a Lutheran grade school, so it, I think it was probably more progressive than I give it credit for because I owe pretty much the majority of my basic fundamental like education to that school where versus you know because it was a private school that I went to I feel fortunate because in the city that I lived and yeah it was a big city there was a lot of I got to witness when I left that school in seventh grade and went to another public school how different it was and going to a public school like in a different neighborhood than I was used to was kind of a culture shock to me. And it was I think I value it now looking back, but um, the majority of my education that I got was at that Lutheran school, and they did a really good job of like you know basic stuff, you know like English and math and got my curiosities going. But the thing that threw me off was the constant like everything was
Mm-hmm.
religion based or like Christian based. Um, Even though if you think about it, like Lutherans were kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
rebels of the Christians back in the day, so they did. It wasn't like pure like Roman
Yeah.
Catholic, you know. So like they, you know, they were about things like um, uh, what do you call it? What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of a Monty Python
Oh.
skit. So I'm actually thinking of, but um, yeah, you're allowed to basically have sex and not for
Oh,
the intention to
yeah.
have
Yeah.
kids. You know, like so they're okay with that. But like in the whole original, like I guess
Mm-hmm.
Roman Catholic thing, it was the whole reproductive thing was the point of it was to bear children and
Yeah.
you know, like the
That.
Lutherans were kind of against all that puritanical kind of stuff initially, and so I'm like, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense, you know. And but now I'm in a place where I'm like, I'm not atheist, but I've seen things that I believe, you know, and I've read and I've researched stuff that I think there's a whole different thing as far as like
Mm-hmm.
higher powers or beliefs, you know, like you and I
Yeah.
have talked in tweets back and forth about like ancient aliens and stuff, you know, there's just way too much interesting and cool shit out there to
Yeah.
learn than to just blindfold ourselves and say, we're going to pick this belief and we're going to stick with that and all of its teachings, you know, without researching everything else
Yeah.
that's possible,
No,
you know.
I agree. I mean,
So,
I think I do think theology is fascinating, but it's so absurd, you know. Um, and
yeah.
this is a, this topic of women's reproductive and health rights is a perfect example. And the whole Gilead, handmade it. This is so just on brand for that. And if you really do study any theology, you do learn that most of it was created by governments trying to control their populations by making moral laws.
Yeah.
And um, you know also following somewhat of the caste system of like how religion and churches, recognize status, and we live in a country that did not want, we wanted that separation of church and state. Um, and now we're just like, what have we, did we miss that? Did we we're like, because if we are having this discussion and these conflicts about whether or not a woman can go choose whether or not she's going to become a parent and bear a child, and if it's all because life begins at inception and killing is against the Bible laws. So if that's the discussion and that's the reason that we're making this illegal or going towards that, there is no separation of church and state, and that has no business. None.
Right.
I'm really high right now. I'm sorry. Yeah, and I'm just like campaigning pretty hard for my cause.
You're right though. I mean, it where is that separation, and it's amazing that I have a bunch of friends now that I talk to pretty regularly, and they didn't grow up with this religious background, and it's amazing to me because they're all younger than us, and I'm witnessing that things are changing, because everybody our age like kind of grew up and knew these things about these laws of that originated from a religion, like or a religious base, good and bad, and that's kind of like I was saying earlier, it's not just good and bad.
Yeah.
There's no black or white kind of thing when it comes to what is really right and wrong. There's just like what you believe. I don't know. Like it's very complex.
But I think you hit it on the nail. The nail. You hit it on the nail, man. You said it depends on what you believe. That is the most critical piece of this. That's what you believe. That's what it is your own belief, and we should be allowed to have that, but not impose it on other people. That's not what having your own belief is about. Hey.
Yeah, exactly. And it can't, like, I mean, yeah, you can have freedom of religion and all that, and think that we live in America where there is freedom of religion and you're able to practice whatever you believe. But yeah, there's
right.
There's so many things, like, yes, we allow, yes, the people in control, the white man allows all these people to move into the country or live here and create a life and the American dream. I'm going to do that one too. But and yes, those different people from different cultures or different cultural backgrounds may prosper in different areas, but are they truly free here in this country? Like that, I think, is something that needs more research and discussion, because if you're forced to abide by Christian law in a country that says, yes, there's freedom to practice your religion. And this kind of goes along with the psychedelic thing. I'll bring that back in, because there's a religion that does ceremonies with ayahuasca, the psychedelic substance that includes DMT, and that is part of their religion. So that is how they are able to basically get away with performing ceremonies using a substance that has been like Schedule 1 or 2 outlawed since the 60s. So they're able to do that because of the freedom of religion thing. but like, is it really freedom? Like, I mean, it's not a legalized substance, you know, and even though DMT can be found in almost every living thing on the planet, like you can extract DMT from, I mean, our own brains produce this substance. Like it's a very minimal amount, and it might be like in the pineal gland or something like that. But like, it's found in trees and plants and animals, and you know, you can very easily extract this substance with the right tools and process and chemicals and things that you need to extract it, which is way different than like what Albert Hoffman did when he uh, uh, discovered LSD in the 30s. You know, like that was a very, you know, using the ergo, the subs or the fungus ergot or ergo. um, and then just, you know, discovered LSD by complete accident, and you know, ended up tripping and riding his bicycle home that day, and that's why we claim that day as Bicycle Day. It's the day in 1938 when he discovered LSD.
I did not know that.
You know, man, where was I going? I'm drinking this. I tried something new today, and last episode, I was like, I'm going to do something new, and I'm going to try a different wine every episode. And I tried the Snoop Dogg wine, which was by 19 Crimes, and it's good, but I made the mistake of saying that it's not bad, and that was like, yeah, it's definitely not good if you just say it's not bad. You know?
Right? Yeah.
So I'm trying something new today, and it's this thing by Goose Island Beer Company that has been around since like the 80s in Chicago. They're like a craft brewing place. But this is a tropical beer hug, a beach vacation for your taste buds. I don't know if I can. There's light.
Oh,
tropical
cool.
Beer hug.
Yeah,
like a bear with glasses. It's Goose Island.
That looks like a good one.
But it's not what I expected. Oh, I didn't even read the bottom. I was like, it tastes like an IPA.
Yeah.
You know, if you know, like an Indian Pale Ale. Well, I mean,
it's IPA. Well, I'm not sure how you missed that.
I don't know either. It's, you know, attention to detail, I guess.
Well, I had my own little cocktail, but in the form of flower, and it was called a purple punch indica hybrid. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so out of the loop with weed. I used to just get whatever I could get because here in the Midwest, we didn't have. I think now we have a dispensary in the next town over, which is like maybe 15, 20 minutes away. But obviously you need like the medical card and stuff like that. And I haven't gotten that yet. I've been thinking about getting it, but at the time when it became available, because it finally got voted into legalization a year and a half ago, I think. And I had already stopped smoking at that point. So I was like working on myself in other ways, you know, like, it was just last year at this point in time and that I started growing my own mushrooms, you know, like, and I was like, I need to make just enough to get me by for a while until I can get off all these medications. And, you know, and it took me that whole time until I think I dropped down. It was like it was probably right around when I was starting the podcast last September was when I got dropped down to the one medication. And that was the last one. So it had been a year and a half at that point that I've been tapering off all those medications and working on myself in different ways. And I started a year ago is when I started microdosing all the time to get off of that last 2 or 3 medications I was on. And man, but it just made it like 100 times easier to get off of the medications because I felt no withdrawal
Mm-hmm.
symptoms. And I was working with my doctor. I didn't tell them. I still haven't told them that I'm
Right.
using psychedelics
Mm-hmm.
to get off that. But I'm like, and it's the VA, and it's like, I don't know what their view is on it yet. Um,
I don't know what their view is
but
either, but whenever I used to take my dad to the VA hospital, they just were always so compassionate.
I'm very lucky that I decided to go when I went, because before I was using my private
Mm-hmm.
insurance that I had through my previous job, which I mean was military, but I was a civilian technician that wore a uniform. So like I had Blue Cross
Mm-hmm.
Blue Shield insurance, and I was going and paying my co-pays for therapy and doing all this stuff and paying a certain amount for prescriptions and all that. And I still do that with the VA. You have to pay. You don't pay a copay, but there's a certain amount that's like a percentage. And I think it's just because I have private health
Oh, right.
insurance through through my
Yeah.
retirement. They're like, well, you have private health insurance, so you may as well pay us some money. If I had no health insurance whatsoever, the VA would cover it, because I'm a
Right.
veteran. But because I'm still
Yeah.
paying, like they're like, oh, you might as well just pay for it. But it's
Yeah.
not very much. But yeah, the the transition to get off of those meds. Like at first, I tried just drinking my
Oh,
anxiety
wow.
away,
Yeah.
like for the first several months when I started weaning off of them in 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, and then I was like, I need to do something else. And it was in November when Rachel and I got some. I'd been looking high and low to find some mushrooms and couldn't find them. And then finally, a guy that I know came through, and then yeah, that was just such a. It was very basic. It wasn't like a breakthrough experience or anything, but like I realized so many things, and it just did the trick. It just like switched that
Mm-hmm.
switch in my brain to say, this is what
Yeah.
I need to do. This is my way forward. And after that, I started reading a lot, and it
That's
was
so
just
awesome.
an amazing thing. It was just like the light came on,
Well, I'm glad you're feeling
It was
better
like,
too. I mean, it's a fight. It's a fight to get out of that. It's like a cycle, vicious cycle. You need the medication for whatever it is, and then you got to take everything else that comes with it, all the side effects, you know, the potential that it's not even the right one. And how do you know? Because you
yeah,
felt awful before, you still feel awful. It's just,
yeah,
yeah.
I know.
I don't ever want to go through that again.
It's just it's so weird that the amount of the main difference I've noticed is that there's the levels of engagement. Like I was very like distracted and distant from all my surroundings for so long that it took basically like tripping on mushrooms to say there's just look around you. There's
Yeah.
people in your life. There's things going on, and I'm like, wow, like I can actually, like, it's okay. I can talk to people. It's that's something that I can do. Like I can. Before I was like trying to talk to people was like pulling teeth, and trying to talk on the phone when I was running my business, because I run a computer repair shop. It was like immediate like tension. The phone would ring, and I would just feel this rage build up
Hmm.
inside of me. And like I just knew that whoever was on the other line or on the other side of that phone line was someone that was a complete idiot that had nothing, that was just going to tell me a bunch of bullshit that I
Yeah.
didn't want to hear. And I was like enraged by this. And I'm like, I didn't give them the benefit of the doubt, or anything. Now I talk on the phone like 5 or 10 times a day, and they're like, they're just regular people, and they're having an issue with a computer or something, and I'm like, it's okay. You don't have to know everything, and that's what I'm here for. If you need me to check it out, just bring it by, and this is how we operate. And it's so like
Yeah.
easy, like before it was like very difficult to just, I would hear the phone ring and instantly be triggered, like triggered into this rage. And I was like, fuck my life, I hate everything. And now it rings and I'm like, hey, how's it going?
No, that's awesome.
It's just such a difference. It's so different now, and I'm glad, and especially like now that I can interact with my kids and stuff too, because man, they would trigger me in different ways, but I tried to mask it, but it was difficult. But okay, so man, we've covered a lot of ground here. So what do you plan to do going forward? Obviously, you have this is something I thought of earlier when you were mentioning the newer. I don't know if it's a diagnosis or what they just mentioned, possibly the scleroderma. When you were describing that, what it reminded me of, and I don't know if you've seen the show Better Call Saul with Bob Odenkirk.
I have watched like just a couple of the first few episodes, but I'm familiar with, I know what it is, but
yeah. Well, there was a character in that. It's actually Bob Odenkirk plays a character named Jimmy, and he's a lawyer, but he's also kind of like a con man. Not really he's a good person that just has a very unique skill of being able to do things that, his brother is also a lawyer who is older than him, but his brother is a fucking asshole and just a complete piece of shit and doesn't do anything whatsoever to help Jimmy's situations, and I don't blame Jimmy one bit. By the way, the guy that plays Chuck, which is Jimmy's brother, is the guy that used to play, oh crap, what was his name? He's been in a bunch of movies. You know him. He was on Laverne and Shirley. It wasn't Squiggy, but it was Lenny.
Oh yeah,
the actor that played Lenny.
Yeah,
like that actor, he's in all kinds of stuff, and he has been, but he plays that part, and he's just, man, I hate that character. But he has in the show, he has some kind of condition where he's very sensitive to electronics and electricity, and anywhere he goes, it says that it makes him feel like actual physical pain. But it's never been diagnosed with him. He just tells people that that's what it is, until he got into an accident and had to go to the hospital, and he was telling one of the doctors that he has this condition, and they were like, were you ever diagnosed with that? Like, why? And he's like, it hurts. It's like pins and needles going in my skin and all this stuff. So when you were describing it, it wasn't, I wasn't trying to compare you to that. Like, I know it's completely different. But it reminded me of that. There are people that do have conditions that are like almost 100% mental conditions, where it may be like, I guess back in the day you used to call like psychosomatic, like you believe, or Munchausen syndrome. Like I kind of dealt with that myself when I was a kid. My mom used to keep me home from school a lot because she told me I was sick, and I believed it. I believed I was sick, and that's kind of why I was really into Eminem for quite a while, because I felt like he could identify, because I felt like he was treated the same way in a way. And so like when you're made to believe that you're sick, even though you don't feel sick, it's kind of a weird thing. But you have something, and I'm wondering at this point, where do we go? Like, where do the doctors, how do they treat something that may be like a neurological kind of thing that can, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that you feel what you feel.
I don't know what the effect of this is, but he prescribed of it. He had to give me this huge disclaimer first. Just tell me that this medication was used for this years before COVID ever existed. It has nothing to do with that, but he prescribed hydrochloroquine. I haven't picked it up yet. I have to go pick it up. But the side effects are benign. You just need to get your eyes checked every year because it could change your vision a little bit. But like you stop taking it, I guess it's not like a permanent change or anything. But it can make your vision a little blurry. But that's about it. But apparently, it has been successful with people with autoimmune disease disorders, whatever. But I wasn't really wanting to try anything new, but at the same time, I'm curious because what if it helped, and if the side effects aren't much to worry about, then I could try it. But he did recommend taking it 4 to 6 months because it takes about that long to really fully be effective.
Well, that's good. I'll be curious to hear how that.
Yeah. So the other thing he said that has helped the most with most of his patients that have symptoms like mine. And he said it's counterintuitive because your body hurts and you have these pains, but rigorous activity, rigorous workout. So that's something like I know I need to get back into, like, more than just what I do now, which is a lot of running around and no real routine. And I'm active, but I'm not like really, consciously trying to work out. But someone on Twitter actually recommended I buy something. I have to look it up because I can't remember the name of it already. But it's something that it was recommended for people who might have a lot of aches and pains, arthritis, but even like restless leg syndrome, where you need to have some help getting in shape without hurting yourself, I guess. But it's called, let's find it here, Life Pro Relax-A-Vibe Vibration Plate Exercise Machine. It's supposed to help with circulation, but also like, weight loss, toning, building muscle. It can also help like improve your balance because there's different settings that you can use where it's just the vibration sensation. And apparently if you use just that and not like this, it's kind of got like this rocking, tipping movement where you're kind of constantly using all your muscles to keep balanced. If you put it on the setting that's just the vibration, apparently that it like increases your circulation. It helps ease a lot of the aches and pains that you might have if you're, if you have arthritis and you have those aches and pains. It takes a lot of the pain out of the working out, I guess. And then you can build up to different levels. There's resistance bands that can be attached. It's got like a Bluetooth thing. You can play music. You can, watch all the videos or whatever. But it was pricey. But I am at that point where I'm like, I need to do something drastic. And if this is something that potentially could work, it's worth it to me. I get a lot of anxiety over thinking about going to a gym and working out in front of other people. That just is like, I just have no interest, and I'm grossed out now. Like with COVID, it just grosses me out to think about sharing a sweat room with someone. So I don't know this.
I hated them before COVID. Like, I mean, I haven't been in a gym in 15 years, but when I was military still, like there was times where they were like, you would designate certain time for PT or, physical training. And most of the time we would do it together as like a squadron, and we would all go run 3 miles, in a formation. And then there was other times where they were like, it's, like if it's raining or something, they're like, everybody just go to the gym and do it at your
Yeah.
own pace. And I'm like, oh, I fucking hate this. I hated going out and running with everybody else, but I hated going to the gym even more. Like, at least in a formation, you're just forced to be there, and you're like
True.
around everyone, and you do what, and when it's done, it's done. Like when you're forced to do your own pace kind of thing, you're like, okay, what? I don't know how any of these machines work. I don't. I never come in here. All these other muscle head guys are in there all the time doing their reps for whatever machine it is, and they know how they work and stuff. But that was never me. Like, I mean, yeah, I was in okay shape when I was in the Marines, but like I would have much rather been in my barracks room playing video games than like, doing, or watching movies or getting drunk or whatever.
Well, and that was
working out was never
some of
thing.
the issues that I have with just even any kind of physical activity that makes me feel like I'm like just sweating on its own feels painful to me, because of these sensations. But I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try to just see if I can get over this next hurdle of not just kind of getting by pretty well, but really like improve my everyday life, and not just with my health but with my energy. And I know that studies prove that when you're active, you're happier.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've heard it for years. Diet and exercise.
Sucks.
It's like what everybody says, and it's like, man, why though? I don't want to diet.
I just have never gotten like any big rush out of being like some like superhuman with a bunch of all this endurance and all that stuff, muscle. But I mean, it's just this last bit of where I'm at. I just really, much as I hate all of that, I hate being stuck like this so much more. And that nagging feeling that I'm the one in the way of myself finding the best part of my life. And if it doesn't work and I don't improve drastically and feel great in my swimsuit this summer, no, I don't care that much about that. But if it doesn't have the results that I hope for, that's okay too. But that nagging feeling that I'm the one in the way of this is, I can't live with myself if I let that happen. I fought too hard to get here.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing great. I think you're on the right path, and I'll be curious to hear where it goes. I think we should probably wrap up here. This has been a great episode. Man, we've touched a lot of good things. I'm just glad, mainly that I'm glad to have you back on here and find out that you're at least on a better path than you were back then, or even back before we initially spoke. But I know that we have a lot in common, and man, I just started watching more of these ancient aliens that I hadn't seen yet from seasons I missed, and oh my god, like, and I watched like 3 episodes in a row one night when I was doing some ketamine, and I was like, holy fuck, like I had never thought of this before.
That's
This
awesome.
is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
So I'll save those stories for another time.
Well,
But,
you should
yeah,
do an alien show and invite a few more people like us that maybe we take turns and give a little
yeah,
synopsis of our favorite alien documentaries.
that would be cool.
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so let's see here. Shout outs. You didn't do a shout out last time. I heard that when I listened to the episode
Oh,
earlier. Is there
I
anybody
can't do a shout out
you can't?
because then I feel like I'm leaving someone out and it just makes the guilt. I can't handle it. Just can't.
Oh my goodness.
I'll think about it for next time.
Okay. Man, I think the last episode we were on, I also shout out the same person, and I've shouted him out several times. Adjective J. He was the one that helped me get started doing this show. But he was just on this last episode, and
Mm-hmm.
it was a fun episode. Um, and yeah, he's a great guy. So he got me into. Well, I told him that I bought like many years ago a Sega Dreamcast console game because I
Yeah.
collect video games and stuff, retro stuff, and he said he loved this game called Shenmue. I pronounce it Shenmue, um, for because I think I know Japanese, but I don't. Shenmue, and they re-released the game for PS4, and I got it pretty cheap, and I started playing it, and oh my god, it's ridiculous! It's such a late '90s
Yeah.
game, but it's fun. It was fun, so I want to play more of that. I did stream it on my Twitch channel. I do rarely stream games on Twitch. Wormhole 42 is the channel. If anybody's out there listening and they want to view my live streams of gaming, I do console gaming and PC gaming. So, Jay, thanks a lot, man, for helping me out there and being a good friend. I want to give a shout out to all the wonderful. I don't know how to say this. All like you, Ellen Barstar on Twitter. There are so many great um, women on Twitter or people, I will say, that I follow that help me to be a better man. Like I see what you all deal with all this ridiculous toxic masculinity, and I won't apologize for all men because I'm not them, but I won't also say that it's not all men like I used to say, because it pretty much is all men. Like all men suck, and they don't understand what is going on with women. So I appreciate all of you out there um, for helping me see things and being a mature adult and growing into a new person that I am becoming, and growing out of all this toxicity that was I don't know, festering in me for so long. So I appreciate everyone who listens to the show. Yeah. Oh man, I didn't copy those other notes. Oh well, you know where to find me. Wormfest Pod at Wormfest Pod on Twitter, and there's a bunch of websites, Instagram, and all that crap. So, Erica, thank you very much again for being
Thank
on
you.
here. So, anytime you want to come back, just let me
See you
know.
when we get
We hope
a
to,
little closer to October and I start organizing my next Women's March. I will probably reach out to you to see if we can find some time and just give that some recognition and see how many more people we can get involved this year. We had about 300 last year.
Definitely.
It was very exciting. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah, definitely let me know. Okay, so everyone, thanks for bearing with me this entire time since last September. I think the show's grown a lot. I don't, man, that first episode, listening to it today, I was like, man, what was wrong with me? I was almost like
I
stuttering at some
wasn't any
point. So
help.
like
I didn't know what to
nervous and
say either. No, I didn't know. I mean, you seem perfect to me. I'd never been on a podcast. Just listened to a lot of true crime podcasts. Those are different formats. They start with a 911 recording. So,
oh, that gives me a great idea for next time. I'm going to do something with this show. It's going to sound like a 911 recording at the beginning of it. And then we'll go into it. Someone's been sucked into the wormhole, and we don't know how to get them back. Oh my God.
Except there's no emotion, so you know who did it.
Yep. All right. Thanks again. We'll see you later, Erica. Thanks, everybody out there.
Bye.
Bye.